You are a superhero, cabrón.
Y'all take shots, y'all aim up. Whoa!
You're the Blue Beetle.
On today's show, I'm going to be talking to you about Blue Beetle, and it looks like it's in trouble. Well, here's where that story comes from. Right now, I've got an article up on the right here. It's from MovieWeb, and they're referencing some projections that we got recently from Box Office Pro. And here's the thing, right? Superhero movies, most superhero movies, they're front heavy, they're front loaded. What does that mean? That means that most movies in the superhero genre, in fact, probably all superhero movies at this point, they rely on people showing up to watch them on opening weekend, and that's where they make the majority of their money. Now, if they don't get a lot of people coming out of the opening weekend, then they tend to kind of fall off a cliff, you know, in the second, third week and so on. And nowadays with movie studios, you know, bringing movies to their streaming services like Disney Plus or Max, basically like a couple of months, 2 or 3 months after the movie's played in theaters, as opposed to giving it a more, you know, traditional 4 or 5 month run at the box office. That means the earning window for movies is a lot smaller. Now, why is that a problem for Blue Beetle? Well, so these projections came out, and you know, I've got some text here on this article. If I scroll down a little bit, I'll read this out to you. This is according to MovieWeb, and then I'll go back and show you what Box Office Pro is talking about right now. So according to MovieWeb, if the projections shared by Box Office Pro turn out to be accurate, not only will Blue Beetle have the worst opening day of a DC movie in recent history, now not accounting for Wonder Woman 1984, which was released day and date on HBO Max and in theaters, and that one made around $16.7 million on its opening day in the middle of the pandemic. So not accounting for that, but you know, aside from that, this may be like the worst opening of a DC movie in recent memory, maybe even all time. But the film is also predicted to just earn $55 million. Now that $55 million is not worldwide. That $55 million is just domestic. That's US and Canada. But ultimately, like, what worries me the most is the fact that, look, like I said, these movies, and I'm going to switch over to the Box Office Pro article here, these superhero movies like Blue Beetle, they make the most amount of money on opening weekend, and then if they're good, they'll have some holdover on the second weekend. Like right now, for example, Barbie, which blew away expectations and got like $162 million opening weekend at the domestic box office, and then like is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like 20 million, 25, 26, like it's continued to just rake it in. It's gone past like 500 million in like 5 or 6 days. It's insane how well that movie's performing, right? But then in the second weekend, by the time we get to this, you know, this upcoming Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it can drop off by as much as 50, 60, or even more percent, you know, like, so it started at 162, it may come in at like 60 to 80. If it gets anywhere close to 80, 90 or higher, well, I mean, and then it's on its way to $1 billion. But it's rare to see a movie that opens over $100 million on its opening weekend, you know, drop off on less than 50% its second weekend, because everybody who wants to go see it has already gone and seen it. So with Blue Beetle, the problem seems to be here that with the actors strike and the writers striking, Hollywood basically being shut down, you can't really do a lot of promotion work. So studios are kind of, you know, not out of options, but very limited with how they can promote this movie. So that means that their ability to generate buzz around it is not as good. They're also probably the ones who saw these numbers before we got this information from like a Box Office Pro. Like, studios spend a lot of money with research and everything, making sure that they get the information right for their releases. They make sure they know when to spend the marketing money because they think that it's going to actually have a positive effect. Now, in the case of Blue Beetle, it looks like they aren't really spending a ton of money because this movie isn't really getting marketed all that much. And then because of the actor strike, you know, like the directors won't talk about it, the actors can't be talking about the movie. You just can't have any promotion other than stuff that was already done before the strike. So if you had some kind of interviews or anything like that, that you can use. I don't think this movie is going to get a red carpet premiere or blue carpet premiere, whichever one they would have wanted to do. So all of those things are going to hurt its chances. Now, I think there is a silver lining if the Latino community comes out and supports this movie. If the DC community, those of you who are watching this, hopefully you are part of that DC community. If you come into the movie theaters on opening weekend and then hopefully keep coming back and bring your friends and family and tell people about it, that could help it. You know, there's certainly movies out there that open to a low box office, opening weekend, but then they go out there and really, just leg out, as they call it in the industry. And you can expect those kind of movies to have a 3, 4, 5 times multiplier, meaning that they 5 times their opening weekend number. That's rare to see with superhero and big blockbuster tentpole films like what Blue Beetle would be slotted as. Where these movies tend to be, if they get to like 2.5 times their opening weekend for total box office, like at the domestic box office, that's considered a good number, right? Like for example, I think like Top Gun Maverick, right? Like it opened to like $100-something million last year, and then by the time it finished at the box office, it was like at 600 or 700 almost at the domestic box office. So that's a very good example of a movie that blew away expectations and like had like 5 times almost its opening weekend. But most superhero movies don't do that. I think Guardians of the Galaxy was a good example of like they opened to like around 100 million or something, and then they legged out to like 300-400. I may be off on that number, but like again, like 3 times 2.5, that's a good number usually. Whereas with Blue Beetle, if you look at the numbers on the screen here, I'm just going to scroll down so you can see it. Here are the projections from Box Office Pro, right? They're saying that on August 18, when this Warner Brothers Pictures and DC Studios movie comes out, Blue Beetle is set to make somewhere between 12 and 17 million on its opening weekend. And then if you look at its domestic total range, they're looking at 27 to 55. Now let's do the math on that, right? Like in the best case scenario, you open on the high end 17 million and then you get to 55 million. You may think, oh yeah, that's like 3.5 for like 11 times the opening. It's pretty good. Like, okay, yeah. In a way it is, but look, this movie's budget was initially, I think, around like 75, 80 million. And then when they said, hey man, you guys are doing something pretty good here. Like, this is pretty rad. Like, let's put in some extra money and make this thing like, go theatrical because we believe in you guys, which is fantastic on the part of Warner Brothers. I really, really give them props for doing that. But now that this movie has got that $120 million budget, it really needs to make like upwards of $250 million to break even. And if it's gonna make 55 million only domestic, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much more it's gonna make internationally. If this movie makes like 200 million or less worldwide, can DC take any more hits like this? They've had like 3 or 4 movies like this that have really, really flopped hard. Like even The Flash couldn't, recover. With Shazam just completely flatlining, and then Black Adam underperforming by a large margin. I think that movie probably underperformed by like $200 or $300 million at least, given like what they had expected based on the fact that they spent 200 million making it and then like another 100 marketing it. It's just, at this point, I know Warner Brothers isn't exactly bleeding money because they are making some money back, but they're barely breaking even, or they're not breaking even at all. And certainly not while the movie is playing in movie theaters, right? Not at the box office. They're going to have to rely on these movies in post-theatrical runs, whether it's through premium video on demand, like if they license it to a Netflix or to a Disney Plus, probably not Disney Plus, but like, to somebody like a Peacock or a Paramount Plus. If they put it on Max, that's not really like, licensing it. You're just paying yourself money because it's all the same company. But, or through digital sales, through physical media, if you go out and buy it on disc, through merchandise, through other kinds of, ancillary revenue streams, which is to say that these movies, for them to have to break even using those ancillary revenue streams, while an MCU movie at a time when the MCU is not doing very well, something like a Quantumania can still go out there and make like almost 500 million. I mean, or I think did it make more than 500? I mean, like for what a lot of people consider one of the worst MCU movies ever, it made like 2 or 3 times as much as some of the DC movies recently have made. And that's just not a good sign. I also start to worry like about this movie, like whether people are actually going to turn up, because like when they come up with these projections, These projections aren't just based on random thoughts. Like, they're doing research, they're asking people questions, they're trying to gauge the interest, they're trying to see what the buzz is on social media, they're trying to see how many views the trailer is getting, who's talking about this movie. They're interviewing people and you know, group studies. They're trying to figure out through real research where the interest lies. And if they're saying this movie is going to make 12 to 17 opening and then 27 to 55 total domestic, that's not a good sign. And I sincerely hope that, you know, these numbers turn out to be wrong. These projections aren't always correct. Like, you know, Barbie's a great example. People never thought, like even the experts, they never thought in their wildest dreams that movie was going to go upwards of 150 million, no less 162. And then on Monday and Tuesday, it broke like Warner Brothers all-time Monday, Tuesday box office records, which I think were held by The Dark Knight, deservedly so. But, you know, a long time ago. And I think one of them actually was, like, I think its Tuesday record was owned by Aquaman. It's so, you know, other big movies that you would expect to be up there. But, like, you know, here comes Barbie, complete cultural phenomenon. Now, I don't think Blue Beetle has anything like that of a social movement behind it, but I sincerely hope that when the movie does come out, it kind of goes, you know, crazy with word of mouth the way the first Spider-Verse movie did, right? Like, people loved it. People said, oh my God, you gotta go check this out. This is the movie that you need to go see. This is the kind of film that we should be watching now. This is probably the best Spider-Man movie of all time. Things like that, right? And then you bring your friends, you bring your family, you tell your coworkers, then they go to the movie, and then all of a sudden it's like a snowball effect. And we have seen the effect of how well the first movie did with word of mouth on the second Spider-Verse movie that it came out this year, and that's still going. I mean, you know, so there's certainly a chance that if this movie is good, which I think ultimately every movie should be good. If you want to make money, you should make good movies, right? It's only common sense. Too bad it's a lot harder to do than it is to just talk about it, right? It's easier said than done. So I dearly, sincerely hope that Blue Beetle is going to be a great film, because the box office projections don't look good. And the only way they're going to combat that, especially without having the marketing capabilities with the actor strike going on and the writer strike, they're going to need to make sure this movie is great, and the word of mouth on this is like flawless. And that's the way that this movie can fly, you know, like the way Top Gun Maverick did last year, you know, opening really high and then just kept on chugging for months and months on end. I also think that if this movie does have that breakout run, Warner Brothers should leave it exclusively in theaters for like 4 or 5 months. Don't just pull it and put it on HBO Max. Let this movie make its money. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. The projections don't look good, but I still have faith that this movie will do well at the box office if it is good. I certainly hope that it's good. The trailers have impressed me. It get me excited every time. So I'm really excited to see Jaime Reyes and his family and their adventures together, and what Blue Beetle and the Scarab get onto. So hopefully you guys are interested in it too. Let me know in the comments if you like this kind of content. Of course, you can hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. And then if you hit subscribe, you can come back here daily, Monday through Friday, for more DCU Daily. And then we'll keep talking about Blue Beetle, Aquaman, all the upcoming, you know, DCU announcements, as well as, you know, what's coming the past, what's going on in the world of DC today. Any kind of breaking news, we'll talk about it. If James Gunn goes out and tweets some new announcement, we will talk about that. So until the next DCU Daily episode, I hope you guys go out there, support your DC, and then, you know, keep coming back here for more content like this.